Hey, what's up guys? This is Adrian Boycell. Welcome back to another Adrian Graphics and Marketing video here on YouTube. So glad that you joined me. Today I have an exciting topic that I'm going to talk about that was one of my actual career lows, but it was one of my highs at the same time. So before we get into it, I'm going to play my little reel. What I ask is that you hit the subscribe, hit the like button if you love this video. If you love my channel, if you've been following me for a while, drop a comment, say hello, introduce yourself. I want to get to know you, but we're gonna go ahead and get into it. So let's roll to my B-roll. All right, so what I'm gonna talk to you guys about today is how to not lose your business to an investor. That is something that is happening all the time. And I truly believe that when you start doing something in the world that matters and you start making an impact, you're going to make noise when you have a strong why. And many of us start our businesses to make money, but if you're like me, you started your business because it was something you were incredibly passionate about and you wanted to change your life and the lives of others. You're not just motivated by money, which I am not. And that has been a downside, and one of the learning lessons I've had over my career is starting to put it as a higher priority in my life and not just focusing all on passion, but focusing on finances as well. But this story is all about passion and the real truth and the lessons that are learned here. I think you're going to be able to take away and apply to your business, because if you're doing something that's majorly impactful in the market, in the community, in the marketplace, or even in the kingdom, if you're a believer like me, you are going to make noise, you're going to make waves, and there's going to be some people that notice that and they want a piece of what you're doing. They want to find out how you're doing it. And they have learned through experience and through mentors and through all these different methods how to take advantage and corrupt that. And so that's what this video is about today, is telling my story of how you can avoid losing your business to a greedy investor. They suck, man, I'm telling you. So what happened to me was in 2007, I started my first retail print and design shop. This was a location where people could walk in, they could sit down with me, they could have their stuff designed, I would listen to what their passions were, listen to their stories, and keep in mind, in 2007, it was the very beginning of the downturn of the economy. Things were starting to dry up, the real estate market. A lot of people had lost their jobs in construction and new home development, so things were really starting to hit, especially in Sacramento, where I'm from, were really starting to hit our community in a really bad way. And people were starting their own businesses just to survive, handyman services, things like that. And these people would come in and tell me about their lives, tell me about their stories, tell me about their histories and what they had done for a living and given their lives for companies that were no longer around. And I just kept hearing story after story and people sharing that they wanted to have their own dream and they started wanting to use their talents and their efforts to make themselves an income and make themselves a future rather than making other people a future. And that was really inspiring to be able to sit in front of or sit on the other side of the desk from that person, and I really enjoyed that part of it. And through that process, I was actually able to sit down with them and take all of their passion and their why and who they were and their heart of who they were as a person and actually incorporate that into their designs. I truly got to know them, I truly cared, and I was serving my clients. And because of that, in 2.5 years, I had over 3,000 clients. I'm not exaggerating. It was actually probably closer to 3,500 in just 2.5 years. We had expanded from a tiny little 650 square foot shop. It was a small little space in the little middle of town of Citrus Heights, California, next to an Army, Navy, like old school store and a barber shop. And we were just right on the main drag of this street called Auburn Boulevard, where there was tons of cars going by, and I seized that opportunity. I had a big monument sign outside that I used to attract cars with a big yellow sign that said 500 business cards for $50. I had a sign shaker that I got out there and hustled. I mean, my business was exploding over those 2.5 years, and I really made a lot of noise and a lot of impact in the community. Well, you may not know, but before that, I actually was in the direct mail business, and that's where I got some of my experience in printing and learned kind of the processes and the project management side of things. And when I did, I worked for a guy that we'll just call him Randy. And Randy was a part owner in this company that was a big direct mail company that was actually, I think, a franchise. And Randy was a big shot there, and I had only seen him a couple times, and people talked about him, and he had set a culture of like he was this Mr. Successful, super millionaire, really powerful guy. And so everybody was really intimidated by him. But for some reason, I've just never been that kind of guy. I'm not intimidated by money. I don't fear anybody. I look at everybody as equals. We all have our talents. We all have our gifts. And he was just another dude to me. So just a few years later, as I was moving from my Citrus Heights location to my downtown location, I had just remodeled it, and we had put a ton of work into it, made it look beautiful, and in comes strolling Randy. And man, I was sitting in my office in the very back of the building in this new location. I'd only been there maybe a month at the most, sitting at my new location, and he comes in, and I see him, and I immediately noticed him and recognized him. And I walk up to him and I said, "Hey, how's it going? How you doing, man? Good to see you." And he's like, "Wow, good to see you too. I recognize you." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is my spot." And he like looked at me and he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm like, "This is my place." And he goes, "You don't work for anybody?" And I'm like, "No, this is my spot." He goes, "Oh, so you got investors, huh?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You got family money?" And I'm like, "No, man. I built all of this from freaking nothing, man. Just 2.5 years, 3 years earlier, before that, I was in jail writing the business plan for this business." And he just was like, took a step back and he goes, "Can we go talk for a minute?" And he came across really genuine, and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. Come, let's go talk." So we went back to my office and we were sitting there talking. I shared it with him, my story and where I came from and what I did, and showed him my work. And he's like, "Wow, man, I have all the resources available. I got lawyers in my office. I got tax people. I got all the areas that you're struggling with. I got extra salespeople. I have all the whole production facility of mail marketing." And come to find out, he was no longer part of that first direct mail company. He actually took all of the customers from that place and opened up his own shop just down the street, and actually like less than a mile away. And he told me about the millions of dollars he was doing, and come do a tour of my facility, and just really pitched himself as this business mogul, business mentor, and came across to me really nice, really friendly, really caring and giving. And I was like, "Dang, man, this guy is like really serious. Like, he sees something in me." And I had seen something in myself at that time, and I knew that my vision for California printing was much bigger than me, that I could take this Cal Print, because it was called KAL Print, Cal Print model, and I was already dominating online for the word California printing, getting a ton of business, setting up portals. I mean, I just had built such an empire for myself at that time, what it looked like to me. I had a sign department. We were wrapping vehicles and doing graphics and building websites and doing marketing. We had expanded into all these other services, and we were making great money. We took a hit when we first opened up there, and I was starting to recover when he came in. But over a few month period, about a month period that we started talking, I started to notice that his attitude started changing. He started becoming shorter with me, and started becoming when it came to time to negotiate on terms, he got very, very short. And so I sat down with him in his office. It was one of the last times we met before I made the big transition. And he said to me, "Look, here's a map on the wall. And on this wall is all of the areas in the states. Everyone that has a star on it is where I want to put a CalPrint location. I see a vision for this, for taking this nationwide. You've done an incredible job. There's no company in the country that allows you to just come in, sit down, get their stuff designed right there in front of them and walk out." He's like, "This is a brilliant idea, dude. We have to take this. You got to let me help you." And I said, "Okay, well, let me have an attorney draw up a contract." So we drew up I had my attorney draw up a contract, and I gave that back to him about a week later, and we met at his office, and he sat there and went through this whole thing and said, "I don't think we need this contract." And I said, "Well, of course we need this contract." He goes, "I don't want to do it this way. Let me write something up, and let me show you how I want to structure this thing." Because I think I asked him for like 180 grand up front, and I was asking for 60K a year. Nothing insane, just a reasonable number to continue to have a fairly decent lifestyle. $5,000 a month isn't a huge amount of money. And even at 23 years old, which I was, it wasn't a big amount of money. It was actually a pay cut for me to be able to make this transition, but I saw the potential and was willing to do that for the future. So I ended up going through, and he goes, "Any objections you have in my contract, we'll just go through them right here, right now." So he brings out this contract that he had his legal department go through, and I was very inexperienced in the legal world, and I had an attorney, and I should have had him look at it, but I didn't. And so I looked through his agreement, and it was very similar to what mine was, but he had made some revisions. And I said, "What about this?" And I pointed it out, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. We'll take care of this." And really just talked his way out of it and sold me out of all the things that I had concerns about. And he was like, "Look, man, I'm not here to take your business. I'm here to help you. I want to grow this thing. I have a lot of experience. Check out this book that I have over here. I want you to read that." And just really acted like a mentor to me and really got my guard down. And through that whole process, I reluctantly agreed. instead of offering me the $180,000, giving me the $180,000 that I wanted, he said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay off all the equipment for the whole entire company. So the company is going to be completely debt free. That's about $35,000, $40,000. On top of that, I'm going to take care of all your personal liabilities and responsibilities you have. Anything that's outstanding or owed that you need to take care of, we'll take care of that. And then I'm going to give you $20,000 as a sign-on bonus. So I got a sign-on bonus. I got all my bills taken care of. I got all of my debts taken care of. He wiped everything clean. So I was like, okay, that's not too bad of a deal. He's like, and then this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you $36K instead of the $50K, but we're going to work you up to $50K or $60K. And then after the $60K, I'm going to get my $60K. And then from there, we'll split everything 50-50. And I thought, wow, this is kind of a no-brainer deal. I mean, I'm not going to get as much money for the business up front, but I'm going to be able to get 50-50 ownership with a guy like this. Half of $5 million is a whole lot better than 100% of $1 million, right? So I took him up on his deal, and within a week, like the very next day, he made me move locations. And we never discussed it. We never talked about it. He said, the first thing that needs to happen is you need to move your location into my facility. I have it ready to go. So I had to bring a bunch of people. We had to do a whole move. I was really reluctant to do that, and I ended up doing it anyway. We moved the location in a matter of a total of 4 or 5 days. I think it took us from one location to the next, from the day I signed the contract to the next, got moved over, started operating out of this West Sacramento location, which was really far. And again, I took another hit in business like I did when I moved from Citrus Heights to downtown Sacramento, which I didn't know. But through that process, I moved to that location, and he immediately wiped out almost all of my staff. And part of our deal was, and it was in my agreement, that he was going to keep all of my staff. And he actually wiped out like 4 out of the 6 of them. And I only had 2 people left. One of them was my cousin, and one of them was one of my admins, like my receptionist. He got rid of everybody. And so it really kind of killed the culture and killed the vibe and the energy of the business, like right out of the gate. It was just a different experience as soon as you walked in with all the different change in the people. And he didn't even implement a bunch of new people. He just gave us 1 extra person to make up. So we were all working harder. We were all stressed out. We all just made a huge move and a huge jump. And none of us were really feeling comfortable with where we were at. To make things worse, the guy started becoming very abusive. And when I say abusive, he started becoming demanding. He started becoming verbally assaulting me and the people that were working for me, making them feel small, insignificant. I mean, just tearing people down. It was really, really bad. And I don't want this to be all about the negativity, because I want you to understand that once somebody has legal control over the business, they can literally do whatever they want. His corporation assumed my company. And so once that happened, the switch, he flipped a switch, and all of a sudden everything went from, this is his show, it's going to go his way, this is his vision, this is his business, and I'm going to fall in line and do what he wants me to do because he has more experience than me. And he didn't understand any of the passion and any of what made California printing unique. All he cared about was hearing my story and getting inspired. It was all a money thing for him. He wasn't in it like I was for the right reasons. And I was too young to understand and notice those things about the business and about him as an investor that were big red flags. And I had some people point some things out to me that were, hey, this is a red flag, and did you bring this up to him? And I brought those things up, but he just brushed them under the rug, and I let them go, and I shouldn't have. So what are the lessons that I learned? Well, I feel like it's really important to understand that when you have a business like I had that's making an impact, aside from it attracting people like that, is you got to remember you're going to go through hard times. Not every season is going to be a huge growth, amazing things. As you start to scale and start to reach different levels of the business, you're going to falter and you're going to stumble, and you're not going to do it perfectly. I don't think any business out there ever has, and I don't think any businessman out there ever will. So you got to remember, you got to stay committed, you got to stay patient, and you got to be committed to the process. I got antsy, I got overwhelmed, I had a lot of pressure, I had all these people I was providing incomes for, and it was all on me. I was the main person bringing in all the sales, over like $380,000 in a year in sales, to try to keep everybody fed and the lights on and the building and the business growing. So there's that amount of pressure on top of all the other things that I had going on in my life on a personal level. And then on top of that, just not having any investors or any money in the bank. I had a little bit of cash, obviously, from the business doing as well as it was, but it wasn't a significant amount of money because I had been in growth mode. I had to put a lot of that money back into the business. So I want you to remember, you got to stay patient. You got to stay committed to what your original passion was. And like I said at the very beginning of this video, passion is why I started my business. I didn't start it for the money. I started it with a strong why, to help people and to share my passion for design and for marketing. And I loved that part of the business. I loved helping people take their dreams, take their ideas, and actually turn them into real businesses. So you got to remember that. You got to keep that in mind when you're dealing with investors. Why did you start this? Ask yourself why. Okay. And lesson number 2 is, just because an investor tells you that he has your best interest at heart, that doesn't mean anything. He could be feeding you a line. He has an agenda that you may not even know or realize. And what you need to do is make sure that you have all of the details in writing, and don't compromise on those details. Stand firm in your beliefs and what you want. If they're not willing to meet you, don't just cave to the first person that sees your talent, your passion, your dream, and sells you on this big hype like I did. I bought into him seeing all this potential in me and saw the potential of having a mentor, which was what I was really excited about. Come to find out, he had zero interest in mentoring me. He just wanted to learn my process, learn what I was doing, figure out my tricks, implement them into his business, and then toss out whatever that wasn't good. And that's literally what he did. And the guy was very abusive throughout the entire process. So after 40 days, I ended up walking away from that business. I filled out my letter of resignation with the advice of my cousin who was still working for me at the time. He said, dude, you can't be treated like this, man. This is just out of control. This guy has just lost his mind. You need to get out of here. So I put my letter of resignation in, and I took a year off. Almost a whole year. It was like 11 months that I took off. I spent time in Illinois with my mom. I learned how to do Google advertising up in Chicago. That's where I really started to pour into myself and reset. And I came up with the vision for having a corporation called Adrian Graphics and Marketing, which was just going to be my parent corporation. And it was a big deal. I mean, it was a really important time for me to reset and really help myself get back on track. So number 3, before I end this story, is I want you to go with your gut. In the end, I knew that I had made a bad decision almost the second that I had signed that paperwork, but I was hoping and praying that it was going to work out for the best, but I knew deep down that there was something about the situation that just didn't feel right. So I want you to actually go with your gut. If you have that heart feeling in your heart, or you're like me, you pray about it, and back then I wasn't really praying about things very much like I am now, but I encourage you to pray about it. Go with your gut. If you have a bad feeling and everybody's telling you, do it, but you just have that hesitation, if you're hesitating, there's probably a reason for that hesitation, and I want you to listen to that voice. I want you to take that into consideration and go back and just look at, maybe even make a list of the pros and the cons of the situation. What's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? And put some of those things down on a piece of paper, and that will help you a lot. I really, really want you to do that. So long story short, I ended up closing down that branch and that business after I sold it. 40 days later, I just walked away from it and let him take it, and he just basically dissolved the whole thing. But like I said, I took a year off. I got to get some freedom. I traveled across the country. I recovered from all of the time and hours that I had put in. I mean, I had put 16, 18, 24-hour days sometimes throughout those 3.5 years that I had been building that business, almost 4 years. And so I needed some time away, and I needed some fun, and I needed to have my youth. And so I did that. I got the opportunity to take $30,000, $40,000 on the road and just go adventure and go enjoy life. And I learned and I read books and I just experienced life. So you have to remember that even in these situations where you have a crappy situation where you lose your business to an investor or somebody that had bad intentions, if this has happened to you already, that's not the end of the road. It literally almost took my entrepreneurial dream from me, but I didn't let it. I continued to move forward, I continued to persevere, and I decided that I was going to rebuild bigger and better than I ever had before. And that's what I've been doing. Since 2011, since I started my agency, I have been growing a team, and I've had people coming in and out of my team, but now I have the most amazing team behind me. I got incredible people. I have an editing team. I just have so much to be grateful for. I'm literally at the greatest point I've ever been in my career. I'm on stages. So I want you to remember that your journey is not over because you lost your business. Don't give up and go get a job. That's not necessary. If you've built a successful business once, you can do it again. So go out there, make it happen. There's no excuse. You just got to find that fire, find that why. And for me, my passion for helping business owners has never changed, and it probably will never change. So just keep that in mind. If you want to grow another business, go out there and do it, man. And maybe you have a job right now because you lost your business and you went to go work for somebody in the meantime. That doesn't mean you can't start building something on the side. That's something that I did while I was building Adrian Graphics, is I had a solid gig that was paying me about $5,000 a month just for part-time work. And so I made enough money to cover all my bills, and then everything else was extra. And I was able to go and build Adrian Graphics and Marketing. And it's a big part part of why we are where we are today. So that's my encouragement and my story for you guys. You know, I know that there are many people out there that haven't even started a business, but I'm telling you, entrepreneurship is really the #1 path to help you reach your fullest potential. Even if you do it on the side of your regular JOB because you want that security, you need that guaranteed paycheck, then just do something as a side hustle. Find something that you're passionate about, find a hobby. You can take almost any talent or anything that you've done in your past and turn it into a profession, even just by creating videos on YouTube. So there's really no limit to what's possible out there now with your passions and your hobbies and your interests and things that you enjoy. Turn those things into content, turn those things into businesses. There's just so much out there. And if you need help, I've told you before, this is what I love to do. I love to help startups. I love to help businesses. So don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out to me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to hit the like and subscribe. Give me the thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one. God bless, and as always, keep looking up.